This is Gary Atensi with CNTV, and today we are in Greenwood Village. We are at SkinSecrets Medical Spa, and I'm here with the owner and medical director, Dr. Greta. Let me ask you, Doctor, first of all, for over 20 years you have been basically devoting yourself to the health, beauty, and vitality of your patient's skin. Let me ask you, first of all, what got you involved in this industry?
Well, I'm a physician and I'm a native, so I went to the University of Colorado Medical School. And I just have always had an interest in preventative care mainly, and then I started doing a lot of skincare, and then really the field of lasers is about 10 years old if you really think about it. It was about 10 years ago that we started doing a few things with lasers. A lot of patients had never heard of it. Botox had not been heard of back then, even though we were doing it. It didn't have its FDA approval yet. So the field of aesthetic medicine and cosmetic lasers is really fairly new, and I would tell you it's really come to the forefront over the last 10 years. It was 2002 that Botox got its FDA approval, so I was injecting Botox in 2000, but when I did a television special back in 2000 on Botox, nobody had ever heard of it. So it's newer than you might think, and it's a real kind of specialty where if you think about this having been done only in the last 10 years, there hasn't been a lot of training and residency. So doctors that were coming out of school, they didn't really have specialty training in this. The field is pretty new. And back when I started first using lasers and using Botox and some of the fillers, back then we were using collagen, there were no books, there were no classes. I had to learn a lot of this on my own, and then I started teaching courses on lasers and on fillers and on Botox, and now it's really evolved where it's a huge field, but it's newer than a lot of people think.
Absolutely. And first of all, before we jump into the actual topic of the day, I caught you just in the middle of a procedure here, and we're definitely going to talk about that, but give me a quick overview of everything you do under one roof here. You do quite a bit.
Right. Well, we really specialize in cosmetic lasers here, so that's something I love to do. I love to teach it. We do fractional resurfacing. I have several different fractional resurfacing devices, and that is a laser. I have several of them that will actually treat wrinkles. It will treat acne, scarring, a lot of sun damage. Really, when you're going to treat a lot of sun damage, fine lines, and wrinkles, lasers are what you need to do. If you're going to add volume to the face, which is huge because we all lose muscle and fat as we're aging, you need to add volume back. I always say it's like plumping the raisin back up to the grape. It's real important to add volume. We use our fillers, and a lot of people have heard of Juvederm, Radius, Perlane, Restylane. There's all different kinds of fillers you can use to add back volume to the face. There's a great product out there called Sculptra or polyol-lactic acid. That's called the liquid facelift. It stimulates your own collagen, and that can last out to 2 years. So that's amazing. And then on top of that, really good skincare, understanding that you need to wear sunscreen and using glycolic acids and using retin-A. And I always tell my patients, don't underestimate the power of really good skincare, taking care of your skin, wearing sunscreen, wearing a hat. You can turn back time literally with just skincare. And I think that's one of the biggest bangs for your buck you can get if you really understand how to take care of your skin. And I teach all my patients how to do that. And then, of course, liposculpting is huge right now. I was explaining to you guys earlier, liposculpting is taking the fat off in problem areas where people simply can't get that fat off no matter how thin they get, no matter how much they diet. That tends to happen to most of us in our 40s. It has a lot to do with perimenopause or actually being in menopause. Certainly with men, they've worked out their whole life, they're buff, they look great, then they have these love handles and they won't come off. So the majority of my patients I'm taking fat off in areas to make them look young again where they just can't get that off. This is not a weight loss procedure. If somebody needs to lose weight, they need to lose weight. This is for those of us, and it's 99% of us over the age of, think of 45, where we just can't get fat off in a certain area, whether that be our outer thighs or we lose our waist as we age or our arms get big, or in men, the love handles, that type of thing. So that's why this procedure is so extremely popular right now. It's amazing. The results are very long lasting. They should be permanent, really. If you don't gain a lot of weight in the future, the fat really comes off. You're in the office, you're awake, you're listening to music. The procedure takes, as you just saw, less than an hour and a half.
Fantastic. And that is the topic that we're talking about here today. Obviously, for over 20 years you've been doing it. You're absolutely a pioneer in this industry. So I'm sure every year you're trying to keep on the latest technology, and you've got great machinery, great technology here. Let's start, first of all, it starts out with a consultation, probably there in your consultation room, discussing what the actual patient needs, and then you, from a science approach, yet an art approach, basically find out what would be best for them.
Right. I think it's really important to listen to what the patient wants, but what I don't like that's happening a lot in the industry right now is You know, we're still physicians to begin with, and we have to always have our patient's best interest at heart. And it is really important to go to a physician where they will use their expertise to tell you what procedures you need, and even more importantly, what procedures you don't need. You know, clearly people come to us, and for whatever reason, you know, I know Good Morning America just did a revenge plastic surgery special. It is true that at some point we all have those issues of self-confidence, whether it be a divorce, a death in the family, the kids went off to college, whatever, and we want to feel better about ourselves. But it's really important, I think, to go to a physician who really has that artistic view and the expertise to say what would give you the best bang for your buck, and quite honestly, what you don't need. I have patients who come and they want things, and I absolutely will refuse to do that because I don't think it's in their best interest. I don't think they maybe really need that procedure. I don't think the look will be natural. And the name of my clinic is, you know, Skin Secrets, where only your doctor will know for sure. You want to look natural. You don't want everybody to know that you had something done. But that's where you would rely on me or another physician who is very passionate about this field to make sure that they are actually telling you what is going to look good for you, what is your bang for your buck, and simply say no if it's something you don't need. For instance, Michael Jackson, Heidi Montag, we all know these stories. And my feeling on that is, where was the responsibility on the part of the physician, really? I mean, that's just irresponsible to do things that somebody doesn't need.
So a lot happens there in the consultation room where you can basically discuss back and forth. Now that the consultation is over, let's talk about the smart lipo, if you will. Who are the candidates? Who's a great candidate for that?
Well, I have two devices here. I do a lot of liposculpting. So I have both the Vaser ultrasound and I have the new smart lipo. That's a really nice combination because they both melt the fat very efficiently. You can get tightening with either one of the devices, and often I will combine them. But the ideal candidate for me is somebody who already cares about how they look, who works out, who tries to exercise and eat right, who simply can't get fat off in a certain area no matter how hard they try, because they're your success story. They are the most actually grateful patients who are like thrilled that they finally got that fat off, and they're going to continue to look well because they're going to continue to eat right and exercise. Patients who are simply wanting to come in because they can't lose weight any other way, that's a different story, and I try to help them with certain weight loss regimens and exercise regimens and that type of thing. And obviously you want to help somebody who needs to lose some weight, and if it jump starts them to get that fat off to their abdomen, because that's toxic fat anyway, we know that that contributes to something called metabolic syndrome and often can be a risk factor for cardiovascular disease. So those type of patients, I will sometimes take the fat off of their abdomen, and then they're very motivated then from there to go on and diet and exercise and eat right. But as a general rule, I'll do lingerie models. I'll do people who have looked good their whole life who want to keep looking good. That's really what liposculpting is about.
And like you say, not only the age takes its toll, but I imagine this would be great for some mommy makeovers.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you've had a baby or two and, you know, you're not feeling so great about yourself. You know, you love having those children, but your self-confidence can sometimes dwindle a little bit, and that's an ideal thing to do. You know, you get that fat off, you start feeling thin again, you start working out. It's all about building self-confidence in men, women, everybody at some point needs a boost. And I think if you do it the right way, this is a really positive type of thing to do, whether it be liposculpting or our CO2 laser or fillers or Botox. Everybody's different, and you try to work with the patient, but the bottom line is we all have the right to feel good about ourselves and to wake up every morning loving who we are. And if some people can get that with nothing, then I would say more power to them. But some of us sometimes need a little help, and I think it's a good thing.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about the areas that it can actually help. What parts of the body are we talking about here?
Well, the most common area for liposculpting, of course, is the abdomen, because that's where we lose our waist as we age. But at the same time, you want to do that back fat too, because we're talking those skinny jeans, ladies, right? We all know what this is like. We want to wear those low-cut jeans that make you look younger, but we don't want the fat hanging over. Why? Because we look older. Okay, young girls don't have fat hanging over their jeans. Women who are going through perimenopause in their 40s have the fat hang over their jeans. Well, we want to look young again. You know, we work out all the time. We don't want people to tell our age because we have fat hanging over the jeans. So that's the most common area. If you're the girl with the outer thigh issue where you have that tiny waist and your outer thighs are huge and out of proportion to the rest of your body, that's another amazing area to do. We do under the arms. We do the chin, we do bra roll fat like in the armpit area and get that fat off that sticks out of the bras. And then of course men, oh my gosh, men love to have their upper back and their lower back and those love handles done, and then they love to do their abdomen. And we're starting to do something now called designer liposculpting, and it's a very interesting procedure where you actually are going in and etching out fat where the tendon insertions are. So then it's making you look like you work out. It can give men a six-pack, it can give women a four-pack, or it can just really sculpt them so they look like a bikini model, because what you're doing is you're taking the fat out now in somebody who's already ideal weight, or you do liposculpting first and make them, you know, an ideal candidate, and then you sculpt out the fat right over those tendon insertions, and you can actually then, if you can imagine etching that out, you look like you've done, you know, a million crunches in the last week. So that's an amazing procedure too, and that's a little different. That's a little higher end, but for patients who want it, who work out all the time, it looks amazing, and that's what you just saw a little bit of.
Speaking of what we just saw a little bit of, one of the most amazing things I thought about this was the fact that you can actually stay awake during the procedure.
Right.
And so what we wanted to do, we actually wanted to get our cameras inside that back room there and basically take out the fear that people might wonder what goes on behind the scenes. And so we actually went back in and we took a look. We were able to speak with the patient while she was there on the table. The patient was able to speak with her doctor back and forth and discuss everything. And so tell me what happens in the hour and a long half procedure. What goes on there?
Well, what's important to know is we can now do this in the office, and it's very safe to do in the office because you're awake during this whole procedure. No IV medication is given to you. A little sedative is given, milder than Valium, so it just takes the edge off. It relaxes you. Sometimes I give a little narcotic, sometimes I don't, and that's it. That's all that you take. And then we use local lidocaine, similar to going to the dentist. So you can put lidocaine in the abdomen and squirt it in with a little probe, just like, and it's not even with shots, actually. It's not done with a needle now. It's done with a little blunt probe. So if you're doing your abdomen area, pretty soon your entire abdomen, it's numb, and you're awake the whole time. And then you pretty much listen to music. We use Pandora here, and you don't feel the laser or the vaser going in, and it's melting the fat. It's literally liquefying this fat. So now the fat is so easy to just suck out. It literally comes pouring out like butter because we just liquefied it. The patient doesn't feel that at all. And now I can just sculpt the waist back. I can suck a little of that liquid fat off here or there, and I can give you the waist back you've never had. I can etch in, if I want to, a six-pack or a four-pack. You know, I can take that flank fat off, and it's an amazing procedure, and it's all done with local lidocaine while you're awake in the office. That's what's so interesting and so great about this procedure right now. And it takes about an hour, hour and a half.
And that's one of the reasons, like I say, we were very appreciative of actually taking the cameras in and actually being able to see a patient who was actually smiling and was actually talking about it. And obviously, once the procedure is done, basically she's walking out of the room there.
She's walking out of the room, and the majority of my patients, their response is usually, that was way easier than I thought it was going to be. Now, that's not to say that I don't like them to take a couple days off from work if possible, because you can imagine, you wake up the next morning, you feel like on to boot camp. You know, your muscles are sore. It feels very similar to working out at the gym. You first get up, you feel stiff, you feel sore, you get up, you take a shower, you move around, you feel better. I will tell you that 99% of my patients don't take any narcotic the next day. They take something similar to ibuprofen. They're able to drive in and see me here the next day. Usually I'll, do a case on a Thursday or Friday. They'll go back to work by Monday. That's what's so great about this procedure, and the results are really permanent. And what I love about this procedure is, unlike these devices out there that are non-invasive, where you go in 10 times and you have a tech put something on your belly and hope to remove fat, there's a huge difference between this procedure and that procedure. That procedure, oftentimes patients don't see any difference, or the chiropractor will measure them to see if there's a difference. And there's a reason why chiropractors are doing this procedure. They're not physicians. They're not allowed to have lasers in their office and do this. So I would always tell patients, if you're going to look at something like that, really look at what your overall cost is going to be, because by the time you spend $2,500 or $3,000 going in 10 times hoping to see a little difference, you could have had the real thing done and look great in an hour and a half. So I'm obviously very partial to doing the real procedure, which is laser liposculpting.
Fantastic. And you've got it all right there, folks. Basically, as you can see, and their website is right there. It's at the bottom of the screen, as well as their phone number. And they will be glad to answer any questions for you. They've got a medical staff here that's going to take care of you. And just basically click down on the button there and see what you need. I mean, literally, you click on the button and say, this is what I'd like to do and need. They're going to go through a consultation with you, walk you through the procedure. And then basically you're going to go in for it, and you're probably going to be surprised, like most people when they walk out of the room, that basically it's Wednesday or Thursday, and by Monday you're back to work and feeling great, and you've actually got the real meal deal. You've actually got the thing that has taken out the actual fat out of your body, and so basically in that one area, it's probably not coming back in that area.
That's right. It won't come back in that area. And I think it's also important to understand, I see all of my own patients. I consult on them. I don't think the concept of the quote med spa where their doctor isn't really there, where other people are running the clinic. I always say, look, if you go to a place and you ask to see the doctor and that doctor's never there and you can't see them, you really should walk out, because that means that a doctor is overseeing a clinic who may have absolutely no credentialing or understand anything about aesthetics. You know, if a doctor loves aesthetics and loves doing these procedures, they're going to be there and they're going to see you and consult on you. And I see my patients, I know them by name, they know who I am, I see them constantly. I think it's really important to understand that some clinics have that and some clinics don't. And you simply need to ask, where's the doctor? Why am I not seeing the doctor for the consult?
Very important. And here what you're going to find is basically you've got a doctor on staff on board who is working with you, but you've also got a doctor who's got many years, because it's not only a science, it's actually an art of sculpting that body and making sure that they get the benefits that you were looking for. So this is Skin Secrets, and only your doctor knows for sure.
Thank you.
This is Gary Atensi with CNTV, and if you don't know, now you know.
In complete honesty, it was way easier than I thought it was going to be. When I walked in, anyone here can attest that I was a little bit panicked, and it was worlds better and worlds easier than I thought.